There's this chap. I'm going to get a leaflet off of him.
Hi, I'm Adrian. I'm actually street witness director for an organisation called Christian Voice. Look it up, because Christian Voice is activist Christian group. You may not realise, but there are a few of us who do activism.
Yep, there are.
I go out and around, and I started doing this as soon as I got to hear of this horrible relationships and sex education teaching in schools, which is really what all this is about. There's a sign there that says no sexualisation in schools. Relationships and sex education in schools is basically, when you get down to it, is sexualising children from the age of 4. You may not realise this, but I think it was Wales that brought it out first. They're teaching children as young as 4, so graphic sexual details, the parts of the sexual body. I don't care what anybody says. A child of 4 or 5 does not want to know that. Doesn't really know what it is, and shouldn't be taught.
Exactly.
And there are loads of stories, because what they do with relationships and sex education, basically brainwashing teaching, is they introduce the idea to impressionable children that you might want to go trans. You might be a girl in a boy's body, or a boy in a girl's body, but these are children. You go and look up real science. Real science will tell you that the part of the brain of the human being is not developed enough to understand stuff like sexual.
The first 6 years are the most important of the development of a child's brain, isn't it?
And
So
even as a teenager,
they're corrupting them from a younger age than when the brain's even developed.
If you want to know more, then you need to look up Dr. Lisa Nolan, who has created herself as an expert on this. And she and a group of good fighting Christians are trying to get more of this out, and they're fighting from within the church, because unfortunately, tragically,
Church has been infiltrated as well.
Churches don't understand any of this. So that's basically it. Science is against all this. Here's another thing: you're not born gay. There's no scientific data justifying that at all. So this will be sexualisation of children in a school setting.
Yep.
We, the taxpayers, should not be paying for that.
Before their brains are even developed, they're indoctrinating them from a stupidly young age.
And this RSE agenda all came from the United Nations. So it was basically forced upon governments around the world. And you'll find that many governments, Western-style governments, are corrupted by this. They have pushed it through into being taught. And it all came from the United Nations, where there's no real debate. But hang on a minute, we don't vote for anybody in the UN. That's right, we don't, so we have no control over it. So you can see that we've pretty well lost our democracy when it comes to this. The problem is that if you're not on the woke agenda, the chances of you getting your legal rights go down significantly, in my view.
And we've seen this in the last 8 months.
Article 9 gives us all the human rights under the Human Rights Convention to have our children taught in the philosophical belief that we believe in, religious beliefs.
So we have to go back to our Christian values.
As a Christian, I would say go back to what Jesus taught. A good place you might want to start is Mark chapter 7, verses 20 to 26. Jesus was asked about why his disciples were eating all sorts of food, because he was in a Jewish country where they have purity laws, they say. And Jesus basically said, it's not what goes in through your mouth that makes you clean or unclean, it's what comes out of you, particularly from your inner self, the heart. Jesus then said, gave examples like murder, evil thoughts against your parents or elderly people, and then he says sexual immorality. Right, sexual immorality for Jesus is basically deviancy. Sexual deviancy is what he was really meaning. He doesn't go into all the categories. Why should he? We human beings can sin. So he just leaves it as that. But in his culture, in his day, and referring through the Bible, is talking about sexual deviancy. That is basically anything that strays outside of heterosexual, married, monogamous sexual relations. Right, I can tell you that schools are not teaching that. Jesus taught modesty. In fact, if you go to almost every faith group, certainly the big faith groups that I know, let's say there's 4, so Christianity, Judaism, Islam and Hinduism, maybe group Hinduism. In fact, why don't we include New Age as number 5 as well?
Why do they include Islam and not Buddhism? I wonder.
And you could, yes,
you know,
as well. So why on earth is our government instructing teachers to do what is pretty well the opposite? Oh yes, but we're teaching consent. Let's tell these children about consent. Jesus taught, and the Bible teaches basic modesty when it comes to this area of life. And Jesus also said, don't go into the world of lust. So, you know, when you look at a woman,
That's a sin, if you even look, isn't it, in that way?
that becomes lust. Lust then fuels something else. Because what you're doing is you're like adding a fuel to a fire. Right, so go back to RSE. That's what they should be teaching. They should be saying, look, don't go into this area because it will trigger off lustful thoughts inside you. That is like pouring petrol onto a fire. If you've got a fire of lust going in somebody, consent issues is out the window.
It's gonna, it's like a fire, it'll just burn everything.
So, to bring us back right to the beginning, I started going out on the streets about 5 or so years ago. Designed one to try to get out and to be as informative to parents as possibly can. So, if your church is interested in that, in fact, take my leaflet
and show them. Thank you anyway, thank you for talking to us, and I'm going to continue on to the stage. Thanks a lot.